Today, we are to discuss forward exchanges and spot exchanges. We all know that today fast increasing investment into shares, debentures, and other bonds in the market, which is known as exchange market. When a merchant buys or sells goods in a foreign currency, the transaction is not always for immediate settlement by cash or negotiable bill. During the interval before he can cover himself by buying or selling the foreign currency involved, he runs an exchange risk, losses or gains on which may often in these days swamp his trading profit. He is thus involuntarily engaged in heavy risk of kind which is hardly in his province to undertake. The subject of what follows is a piece of financial machinery, namely the market, the forward market, that is forward exchanges, as distinguished from a spot exchange, for enabling the merchant to avoid the risk. I have taught in previous classes also about the risk. And while discussing inventory model, we had seen that a risk is very important because of volatility in the exchange market. So today we will discuss and you will note down forward exchanges as distinguished from a spot exchanges. That means difference between forward exchange and a spot exchange. Forward exchanges. Forward exchanges as distinguished from a spot exchange. Export exchange. The spot exchange. Forward exchange as distinguished from a spot exchange. Views of John John Maynard Keynes. Views of John Maynard Keynes. Views of John Maynard Keynes. A. Tract on a tract on monetary reform. A tract on monetary reform, 1923. Views of John Maynard Keynes, A Tract on Monetary Reform, 1920. Keynes book. Views of John Maynard Keynes' book, A Tract on Monetary Reform, 1923. When a merchant when a merchant buys or sells when a merchant buys or sells goods in foreign currency, goods in foreign currency, the transaction is not always for immediate settlement, is always for immediate, for immediate. settlement, for immediate settlement by cash, or negotiable bill. This is the definition of forward exchange and a spot exchange. And when a merchant buys or sells goods in foreign currency, the transaction is not always for immediate settlement by cash or negotiable bill. If immediate they will pay, that is a spot exchange, paying on a spot. But when you decide to buy commodity next year, suppose in next year January, for this period from June to January, there will be a gap of several months. And in those periods, there may be change in the foreign exchange rate or in change in the price of the commodity which are going to buy in foreign market. When a merchant buys or sells goods in foreign currency, the transaction is not always for immediate settlement by cash or negotiable bill. So here the question arises that whether he will pay immediate, then it is a spot exchange. But if he will pay in future, but contract in present, then it will be known as forward exchange. During the interval, during the interval, during the interval before he can cover, during the interval before he can cover himself, he can cover himself by buying or selling, by buying or himself by buying or selling, as the case may be, as the case may be, maybe the foreign currency involved, the 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 foreign currency involved, foreign foreign currency involve. He runs an exchange risk. He runs an exchange risk. Runs an exchange risk losses or gains on which may often on, on which may often may often in these days in these days his swap is trading profit. He is thus involuntarily engaged he is he is thus involuntarily involuntarily engaged engaged in a heavy risk in a heavy in a heavy risk of a kind which it hardly which it which it is hardly in his province to undertake. In his province to undertake. The subject undertake. To province to undertake. Province to undertake. The subject of what follows. What follows is a piece of what follows is a piece of financial machinery. Financial finan- financial machinery. Financial machinery, namely the market, in market in forward, forward, forward exchanges, forward exchanges as distinguished as distinguished from a spot, a spot exchanges. For enabling for enabling the merchant enabling the merchant to avoid the risk, to avoid this risk. This risk not not indeed not indeed during the interval during the interval when when he is when he is negotiating he is negotiating he is negotiating the contract but but as soon as the negotiation is completed as soon as the negotiations nego negotiation is completed. The spot exchange transactions in a spot transaction in a spot exchange transaction in a spot exchange are for cash are for cash That is to say, that is to say, cash in one currency. Cash in one cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in another currency. We are discussing both a spot exchange and forward exchange. So a spot exchange means if any investors transactions is being done on a spot, then it is called a spot exchange, because in this case cash is involved. Cash in one currency is exchanged for the cash in another currency. If Indians are buying any share, any instrument for business, then on a spot exchange, India has to pay dollar or pound sterling or any foreign currency. Generally, dollar, pound sterling considered to be international currency in past years. Nowadays, other currencies, yuan and other currencies are also in circulation at the same level. So transaction in a spot exchange are for cash. That is to say, cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in another currency. As dollar is acceptable in every country of the world, so we always have a stock of foreign currency in dollar. So wherever we go to buy any spot exchange, we will give dollar directly and in exchange for that currency. If rupee is accepted, then our rupee is considered to be international standard. So transaction in a spot exchange are for cash. That is to say, cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in another currency, whatever may be the currency. Exchange cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in other currency. This is called a spot exchange in foreign trade. But merchants who have bought goods, but merchants who have bought goods who have bought goods in terms of foreign currency. In terms of foreign in terms of foreign currency for future delivery. For future delivery may not have may not have not have may not may not have may not have the cash available, the cash cash available cash available pending pending delivery of goods, delivery of goods, while merchants while merchants who have sold, while the merchant who have sold goods who have sold goods in terms of foreign currency, in terms of foreign foreign currency, but are not yet but are not yet are not yet in a position in a position to sell a draft, sell a draft on the buyer, on the buyer, cannot cannot even if even if they have even if they have plenty of cash, they have plenty of cash in their own currency, in their own currency, protect themselves protect protect themselves by a spot, by a spot sale of the exchange, a spot sale of the exchange involved save in the exceptional case exceptional case when they have when they have cash, they have they have cash available in the foreign currency, in the foreign in the foreign currency also, foreign currency also. Thus, we find that transactions in a spot exchange are for cash. That is to say, cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in another currency. But merchants who have bought goods in terms of foreign currency for future delivery may not have the cash available pending delivery of the goods, while merchants who have sold goods in terms of foreign currency but are not yet in a position to sell a draft on the buyer cannot, even if they have plenty of cash in their own currency, protect themselves by a spot sale of the exchange involved, save in exceptional cases when they have cash available in foreign exchange also. Next term is a forward contract. A forward contract is for the conclusion of a spot transactions in exchange at the latter date, fixed on the basis of a spot rate prevailing in the original data, prevailing in the original date, pending the date of maturity of the forward contract, no cash need pass. Although, of course, the contrary party, the contracting party may be required to give some security or other evidence for his ability to complete the contract in due course, so that the merchant entering into the forward contract is not required to find cash any sooner than if he ran the risk on the exchange until the goods were delivered. Yet he is protected from the consequences of any fluctuations in the exchange in the meantime. So forward contract is you will buy in future, and in between that two time you will manage foreign currency so that you will pay the amount at the due date. Then at due date it will become a spot transaction because it is forward contract for the previous year, previous month, previous days. But when the days 50 days is completed, then your forward contract will convert into a spot transaction that you will pay the foreign currency to get delivery of the your commodities, say oil, say fertilizer, say many instruments, military equipments which you have ordered. It will take time to produce. So what what is meant to say, if you ask in any interview that how do you distinguish between forward contract and a spot contract, you can say that for a spot contract is a contract in which buyer country will buy or sell any commodity and paying just on the spot. Therefore, it is called a spot exchange. But if you want to get commodity in after 6 months, and in the period of 6 months you will manage dollar, we will see that we had a scarcity of dollar. You can imagine 1991 January, India had only $1 billion in the stock. And at that time, $70 billion were due to pay foreigners. That was virtually a crisis, monetary crisis. And that crisis was resolved by Prime Minister Chandrasekhar of Uttar Pradesh, very strong person who had a Padayatra from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, as today a young chap is also doing from Kanyakumari to Kashmir Padayatra. He was very strong leader and boldly opposed anything in Congress. He then finally he left Congress and joined political party developed after the fall of besides Indira Gandhi and framing of the government by Janata Party. Fortunately, at that time, Mr. Chandrasekhar was not appointed as Prime Minister, but after some time, the chance came and he became the Prime Minister. And in his period, it was very crucial period that $77 billion was on our head to pay because the bonds are matured. But in the stock, only $1 billion was in the stock in January 1991. And so we had to go for remedial measures, and India mortgaged gold in London money market, and then from there brought foreign currency dollar to pay the uh, bonds and bearers of foreign country who have purchased India's bond, paying dollar in past 10 years past. So it is a duty of the government to oblige and a duty of government to pay dollar cash on a spot when the bond matures. So when a forward contract is for the conclusion of a spot transaction in exchanges at a later date. So basically, foreign currency you will pay on a spot because the period of forward contract period end and you come to the spot. So it is often said that a forward contract is for the conclusion of a spot transaction in exchange at the later date fixed on the basis of a spot rate prevailing at the original date. The date which was decided during the forward contract, that will prevail on the spot rate prevailing then. So a forward contract is for the conclusion, is for the conclusion of a spot of a spot transaction in exchanges in exchanges at a later date, at a later date, fixed on the fixed on the basis, fixed on the basis of the spot rate of the spot rate prevailing prevailing at the original date. At the original date. A forward contract is for the conclusion of a spot transaction in exchanges at a later date fixed on the basis of the spot rate prevailing at the original date. Pending the date of the maturity, pending the date of date of the pending the date of the maturity, pending the date of the maturity of the forward contract of the forward contract, no cash need pass, no no cash need pass. Although of course the contracting party, the contracting party may be required may be required to give some security to party, may be required to give some security, some security or other evidence or the other evidence for his ability, for his ability to complete ability to complete the contract, the contract in due course, in due course. So that the merchant entering into a forward contract, entering into a forward contract, into a forward contract is not required. Contract is not required to find cash, to find cash any sooner, any sooner than if he ran the risk on the exchange, on the exchange until the goods were delivered, until the goods were delivered. Eight, he is protected. Eight, he is protected from the consequences, from the from the from the consequences of any fluctuation of any fluctuation in the exchange, fluctuation in the exchange in the exchanges in the meantime. Difference between a spot and forward rates. Difference difference between the spot and forward rates. The difference between the spot and forward rates is therefore precisely and exactly and precisely and exactly the measure of the preference, measure of the preference of the money and the exchange market and exchange markets, exchange market, exchange market preference, exactly the measure, therefore precisely and exactly the measure of the preference of the money and exchange market, money in exchange market for holding funds, for holding funds in one international center, in one international center rather than rather than in another. The exchange risk apart, the exchange risk apart, that is to say, that is to say, under conditions, under under conditions in which the exchange risk is covered, in which the exchange risk is covered. Thus, introductory part is now over, and we will discuss other part in next class. In this class, we have concentrated that what is the meaning of forward exchange and what is meaning of a stock exchange. Forward exchange and a stock exchange both are two types of purchase of goods and services in foreign currency. Merchants buy and sell goods in foreign currency. The transaction is not always for immediate settlement by cash or negotiation bill. During the interval period, he can cover himself by buying or selling the foreign currency involved. He runs an exchange risk losses or gains on which may often in these days swamp his trading profit. He is thus involuntarily engaged in a heavy risk of a kind which is hardly in his province to undertake. The subject of what follows is a piece of financial machinery, namely the market in forward exchanges, as distinguished from a spot exchange for enabling the merchant to avoid the risk. We all know that in the foreign exchange uh, condition, condition of even the country is not always good. We had example of our economy when in 1991 Indian government has a contract on certain bonds issued earlier, and all these bonds are going to mature in 1991. And India in January 1991, in the stock only $1 billion. $1 billion was in our stock. And at the same time, $77 billion were to be paid immediately on a spot because the contract is going to mature on that date. It was the crisis, great crisis in Indian economy. IMF forced India to change the existing system and bring a strong reform in Indian economy so that you can be able to repay their bonds of $77 billion you have taken from the people abroad. And it was also the prestige of the country. So at that time, President Honorable Chandrasekharji, he was president, and he decided to keep gold in foreign London Bank of England and keep gold mortgage and get dollar cash in hand for the government to settle this $77 billion at that time. And this was also one of the conditions which led to the reform in India, a reform in Indian economy by liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Due to these reforms, we see that the position of our dollar stock has increased. And at present, you might have seen my previous classes on IMF that India has paid 100% loan repaid by India, and there is no loan from IMF on the part of India, whereas about the countries of South Africa and South America, many countries are in debt to the IMF. So transactions in a spot exchange are for cash. That is to say, cash in one currency is exchanged for cash in another currency. But in case of forward contract, it is for the conclusion of a spot transaction in exchange for a later date, fixed on the basis of a spot rate prevailing in the original date. Forward contract, for forward contract, if the country is willing to have a forward contract, then no cash need immediately, but you have to sign on the contract that you will be able to pay the payment for contract, and you will be able to convert your forward contract on certain final date, turn into a spot transactions, and you will pay foreign currency, and you will have the delivery of goods and services which you have required. So in next class, I will discuss that for businessmen and traders who wanted to use a spot and foreign rates, then we will discuss that how do you prefer, which one will be preferred, whether a spot uh, exchanges should be preferred to forward exchanges or vice versa. We will discuss in next class. Now, in the conclusion, I say that we are proud enough to say that at present in our stock, dollar uh, is a stock is so large that we are giving dollar to IMF to give loan to the poor country. You just see my 2 or 3 recent uh, post on IMF that many financial changes are taken place, and India has agreed and he had paid so much amount so that it should be given to the South African countries or any poor countries, even Indian currency, which are pending, which are in a stock in IMF, it should be given to them so that they can buy Indian product. We are capable to sell anything uh, equal to any other developed country in the world. So uh, this is on my part. Now on your part, comment on the topic, few lines, like it, subscribe it, and always try to write 1 or 2 sentences, not more, 1 sentence, 2 sentences, what you feel. And you can also suggest me that what other topic you want to be taught in international trade, because so many comments I have received from different students from Assam and Mizoram and in South India, that international trade portion is not easy to uh, complete by the students by their own efforts, and I am here to help them. I have been teaching economics for the last 50 years, and in the coming years I will teach. This is my motive. As I teach the theories of Marshall, and Marshall taught at the age of 80, always writing things. Paul Samuelson, he has written so many books and for a long life he was awarded Nobel Prize also. I have seen, I am taking different economist views and their lifestyle of teaching students in different countries, especially in developed countries, so that we should be able to match them. And therefore, I'm trying. So, like it, comment it, subscribe it, and tell your friends that should read topics related to IAS for your syllabus. I have written, taught more than 2,500 and more topics. That is for different types of examination like UPSC, BPSC, IES, RBI. So you choose your topic, not to read all, but you choose your topic. If you don't find your topic, you can comment in any of my topic that please, sir, this topic should be covered. And this will help me to choose topics because 2,500 more I have already taught. There is repetition. So new things should be given to the students. That's all. Thank you.